Imagine this. You're fast asleep. The room is dead quiet, your breathing is slow, and you are completely at rest. And then, bam, you're jolted awake. Your heart is literally hammering against your ribs. We're talking over 120 beats per minute. You're gasping for air, drenched in sweat, and just overwhelmed by this profound, inescapable sense of impending doom. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're uncovering the hidden biological operating system running beneath your human experience. We are diving deep into the invisible, microscopic forces that dictate your health, your aging, and your reality every single day.
Now, when you wake up in absolute terror like that, your very first instinct is probably to assume, wow, I must have had a terrible nightmare. But here's the paradox that baffles so many people. You actually woke up from a completely dreamless void. So if your mind wasn't busy generating some terrifying story, what exactly triggered the fear? Well, the answer lies hidden deep within your biology. Your body's emergency alarms are screaming, but they're responding to a threat that is entirely invisible.
Now, what's really interesting here is separating true nocturnal panic from other nighttime events. You might be thinking, oh, this is just a sleep terror, which, is pretty common in kids. But during a sleep terror, the person is really only partially aroused, and they wake up with zero memory of the event. A nocturnal panic attack, on the other hand, that violently pulls you from deep, dreamless, non-REM sleep into full, vivid alertness. You are wide awake, fully aware of the terror, and you are going to remember every single terrifying physical sensation.
Section 1. Inside the brain's center. The neurobiology of a midnight autonomic storm. Let's get right into it.
To really understand this terror, we have to travel deep into the brainstem. Way down here sits this tiny little cluster of neurons called the locus coeruleus. Evolutionarily speaking, think of this as your brain's norepinephrine factory, the primal command center for your fight or flight response. Now, during deep sleep, this factory is supposed to power down to allow for crucial cellular repair. Its firing rate should drop to a baseline low so your body can rest. But in individuals prone to nocturnal panic, right as you transition from light sleep into deep, slow-wave sleep, this tiny nucleus essentially short-circuits. And this misfire triggers a precise, invisible cascade. First, you get that normal sleep suppression. But then, the locus coeruleus spontaneously misfires. Instantly, a massive flood of norepinephrine is dumped straight into your central and peripheral nervous systems. And that triggers a massive autonomic storm. Your heart rate violently spikes past 120 beats per minute. You start hyperventilating. And the craziest part, all of this intense physical panic happens before your conscious mind even realizes you are awake. But why on earth does the brainstem misfire in the first place? Well, one of the leading scientific explanations is Donald Klein's false suffocation alarm theory. You see, when you sleep, your breathing naturally slows down, and that causes your blood carbon dioxide levels to rise just a tiny bit. For most of us, completely fine. But for some, the brainstem possesses a pathologically hypersensitive threshold to CO2. It actually misinterprets this completely normal slight rise in carbon dioxide as imminent suffocation. It violently jolts you awake because your biological operating system, which was designed millions of years ago to keep you alive, genuinely believes you are choking to death. So that perfectly explains the neurobiology of fear, right? But biology is never isolated. What if the invisible trigger for your midnight panic isn't actually originating in your brainstem at all? What if it's starting much further down in your body? Section 2, the gut-brain fear connection, acid, the vagus nerve, and the anxiety-heartburn triangle. Here we start uncovering the profoundly interconnected nature of our biology, specifically what we call the anxiety-heartburn-sleep triangle. Let's shift our focus to the digestive system for a second. When you lie down, stomach acid can actually escape a weakened esophageal sphincter, and this acid irritates the vagus nerve, which is essentially the superhighway communicating between your gut and your brain. This irritation causes acute chest pain that perfectly mimics a heart attack, and it triggers coughing fits that induce acute hyperventilation. Your brain receives these massive distress signals from the gut and responds by initiating a full-blown panic attack. Then, the panic destroys your sleep, which spikes your stress hormones, which further weakens your digestion. It's this seamless, vicious loop that silently degrades your long-term health. Section 3. The metabolic panic trigger. When drops in blood sugars simulate sheer terror. Every discovery leads to another revolution, doesn't it? We've looked at the brainstem, we've looked at the gut. Now, consider your metabolic system. 70 milligrams per deciliter. That's a crucial number. Because when your blood glucose falls below this exact threshold during the night, your sleeping brain is suddenly starved of its primary energy source. And your brain, being the ultimate survival machine, treats this drop not just as an inconvenience, but as an immediate, life-threatening emergency. So to save the brain from starvation, your autonomic nervous system executes what we call an adrenaline rescue. It literally forces your adrenal glands to dump massive amounts of cortisol and epinephrine into your bloodstream just to unlock stored glucose. Now, this systemic adrenaline surge absolutely saves your life, no question. But the catastrophic side effect is that it perfectly mimics a severe panic attack. You wake up, trembling, sweating, heart racing, and experiencing just sheer dread. Untangling these overlapping symptoms is a real eye-opener because it's so easy to see how perfectly these biological systems mimic one another. Take tachycardia, a fast heart rate. It's present in psychological panic, sure, but it's also a hallmark of metabolic hypoglycemia. Shortness of breath happens during panic, but it's also triggered by the choking reflex in GERD. You can really start to see why sufferers get so confused. I mean, you might spend years trying to treat a psychological anxiety disorder when in reality, you're experiencing a metabolic or gastrointestinal crisis. And this is why distinguishing the root cause is absolutely crucial. As this brilliant insight highlights, true nocturnal hypoglycemia is a physiological substrate deficiency, not a psychological panic attack. One requires a biological intervention, food and metabolic stability. A true psychological panic attack, however, requires cognitive restructuring. Uncovering which invisible force is acting on your body is literally the only way to reclaim your sleep and take back control of your health. Section 4. Rewiring the nervous system. Neuroplasticity and fear extinction learning. Okay, so now that we've identified these terrifying hidden triggers, how do we actually fix them? Well, we turn to the incredible science of neuroplasticity. You see, when you experience these midnight alarms repeatedly, your brain literally, physically changes. Through a process called interoceptive conditioning, your amygdala, the brain's fear center, forms an incredibly powerful associative memory. It basically learns to link normal physical fluctuations, like a slight change in your breathing or your heart rate during sleep, with extreme danger. Your nervous system gets trapped in this exhausting state of hypervigilance, constantly scanning your internal organs for threats, even while you are deep in sleep. So the crucial point here is that we can actually use science to rewire this faulty circuitry. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, reframes those catastrophic beliefs. Interoceptive exposure, like breathing through a straw to safely mimic shortness of breath, actually trains your amygdala that physical arousal does not equal danger. On the metabolic side, we have the protein buffer rule. Simply pairing complex carbs with fats or protein before bed completely prevents those severe nighttime glucose drops. And strict stimulus control ensures you don't associate your bedroom with danger. These aren't just mental coping mechanisms. They are highly effective tools that physically rewire your neural pathways and restore your body's biological baseline. Section 5. The interconnected health web. The emergent reality of human biology. As we take a step back from all of this, a really profound realization emerges. We so often treat the human body like it's a machine with isolated parts, right? You have a sleep problem, an anxiety problem, or a stomach problem. But your biology just does not work that way. Your sleep architecture influences your hormones. Your hormones dictate your mood. Your nervous system impacts your digestion. Health is never just a collection of separate habits. It is the beautiful, complex, emergent result of this deeply woven web of continuous biological processes happening every single second of the day. And today, we've seen exactly how this cascade works in real time. A tiny shift in your metabolism or a single drop of acid escaping in your gut sends a microscopic distress signal. Your nervous system reacts instantly by sounding a massive alarm. Your sleep architecture fragments, which then raises your daytime stress levels, silently reshaping your long-term cognitive health and actually accelerating the aging process. You simply cannot separate metabolism from fear. They are one unified, interconnected system. Which leaves us with this final, truly profound thought. If a slight dip in glucose or a microscopic shift in carbon dioxide can literally rewrite your brain's fear circuitry in the dead of night without your permission, what other invisible biological forces are silently shaping your mood, your behavior, and your reality every single day? The human body is an absolute masterpiece of hidden connections, and understanding them, well, that's the very first step to truly mastering your own life.